what is up, Finesse family? Hopefully, everybody is having a great day today. Hopefully, you guys are off and you get to experience and relax with your families today. Today, we're going to talk about how does um, the loss of a child resonate with men. Um, when I start, guys, we'll start off talking briefly about how it interconnects with parents, um, and then we'll go into talking specifically about how it affects men. I also will drop the link too for any of you that feel led to come speak and tell your story about this topic. But once again, we are talking about how does a man deal with coping with the loss of a child. All right, so hopefully everybody's having a great day. Hit the ringer on the way in, and we'll get started, guys. All right, guys, hopefully you're having a good day. If you do not know, my name is Mrs B Finesse of millennialfinessemindset.com. And here, this is the place where we have conversations about relationships and how to communicate better. Once again, finesse is an acronym, and that stands for faithfully inspiring, innovating, naturally effective, and seeking success every day. That is my goal with you guys. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go through a health and science article, guys, and read it to you. Please excuse if it's not super loud. Let me know. You guys can turn the volume up. I'm not talking that loud today. Um, so it says, the first article says, what the loss of a child does to parents psychologically and biologically. So we're going to kind of break that down first, and then we'll get specifically into how this affects men. Hey, Lashes, hope you're having a great day, you and the baby. Here we go. So, it says, what the loss of a child does to parents psychologically and biologically. It says, parents mourned the passing away of a child and experience and the classic psychological, biological, and social grief responses. They are unique. So those are the different ways parents mourn: psychologically, biologically, and socially. Says the loss of a child may be the worst trauma a human being can experience. Though it's not a terribly common experience in the United States, about 10,000 children between the ages of 1 and 14 have passed away in 2018. The horrific potential for losing a child looms large. And although reassuring, the numbers also make plain why the death of a child brings so much grief and why it's so feared, so painful, and stigmatizing. All right. It says the death of a child is considered the single worst stressor a person can go through, says Deborah Carr, chair of the sociology department at Boston University. Parents and fathers especially feel responsible for the child's well-being. So when they lose a child, they're not just losing a person they love, they're also losing the years of promise they had looked forward to. Although parents mourning the loss of a child are in many ways experiencing classic grief responses, the usual battery of psychological, biological, and social repercussions, there are many unique challenges. The trauma is often more intense, the memories and hopes harder to let go. As such, the mourning process is longer, and the potential for reoccurring or near constant trauma is far greater. So basically, there, guys, are talking about psychologically how that affects you when you're losing a child, biologically, and socially. And if I can make just a hypothesis before we kind of get into that, and then we'll read it and see if it's true. So psychologically, to me, I could see that just because it's on your mind all the time, and the mental strain of if you physically actually did see the child, like if it wasn't in utero when they passed, I could see how that be mind tricks with you because you'll be assuming it's your fault. Biologically is like literally to me. We're going to read it, but I'm just telling you what I'm assuming. Hypothesis before we read the article. Biological would be like how I'm feeling inside. Like I don't want to eat. I feel stressed. I feel weak. And social also, like you kind of just back away from everybody. You don't really want to talk. You don't want to be around people because of how you're feeling. Okay, it says the death of a child brings with a range of different and ongoing challenges. All right, it says other struggles to find meaning in life. Some people do find ways of living with the loss, but others struggle. So it says biological impacts. How the death of a child changes their parent's body. You guys have to forgive me. I feel like I have sinus drainage or something. Hey, Sophia, how are you? So I'm going to sound a little bit like lighter than I normally do because I don't know if you guys know what sinus drainage is, but it's like when it goes like down your throat instead of your nose. So I'm not going to sound as loud as I normally do, guys. So hope you can still hear me well, though. Biological impacts. How to deal with the passing of a child changes a parent's body. It says in 2018, Frank Infierna and colleagues examined the general health and physical functioning of 461 parents who had lost children over the course of 13 years. This is really interesting. They actually did a study on this, guys. Let's see. Okay. We did see some decline followed by a general bounce back and recovery over time. Who studies resilience to major stressors at Arizona State. And this is from Fatherly magazine. It said physical functioning was focused on one's ability to complete various everyday tasks. All right. And we didn't see much change in this, Inferno says. But when we reviewed bereaved parents' self-reports, whether they felt they got sick often or whether they expected their health to improve or decline, he found poor perceptions of health. Interesting. It says, as with all major grief responses, the trauma of losing a child can kick off physical symptoms, including stomach pains, muscle cramps, headaches, and even irritable bowel syndrome. Wow. See, guys. So if you're just getting in, guys, good day to you. I am going over a report with Fitness and Science report, and they're talking about how the loss of a child can affect you biologically, psychologically, and socially. Let me drop. All right, here's a link for anybody if you'd like to come up and talk about you having the loss of a child or sharing that story with us. Today we're definitely going to keep this live stream into one of the shorter ones because I definitely want the parents that have experiences to come up and say what they need to say. And so when people watch it on the rewatch, they can get straight to what they need to hear from people. So let's see. I know, Big Bad Bull. Hey, Lashes, how are you? I just kind of explained that today. I actually wasn't going to go live today because I have sinus drainage, but I was like, I know you guys are going to come, so I'm just going to fight through it. Sophia says, hello, Mrs B Finesse and Lashes. Big Bad Bull says, hey, sweetie, you don't sound good today. I sincerely hope that you're doing well. Don't push yourself to do this today if you need a break. Yeah, Big Bad Bull. It's not anything wrong with me. Like, physically, it's like the fan. Like, my husband likes to sleep under the fan sometimes, so I have, like, sinus drainage from that. And like I was explaining to you guys before, like, instead of it coming out of your nose, It goes kind of trickles down your throat. So it's like my throat feels like I have like it tickles my throat. So I don't sound as loud as I normally sound. So forgive me, but I'm going to get through this because I feel like it's important to talk about this. I didn't want to procrastinate, but it's not going to be one of those super long live streams you guys are used to. Um, let's see. Sophia says, "I'm well, and you. Please stay well. Sinus drainage is. I know, and that's the thing. It's not like I'm sick because it sounds like I am, but it's so weird. It's just like I said, the drainage goes down your throat instead of your nose. So it kind of feels like you have like an itchy throat, like you have to sneeze, but you don't sneeze, and there's nothing coming out of your nose like it's supposed to. So yeah, I'm gonna fight through it, guys. But I appreciate you guys being there. It's not gonna be super long today, like I told you. I want to get straight into the point, just because, like I said, I think it's important to have this talk because a lot of people really don't talk about this, the loss of a child, or they stay kind of stuck in. So once again, um, anyone can come up. If it's man or woman, you lost a child, you can. But I do specifically, if there are men that want to talk about this, I definitely want them to come up. But anyone can come up if you experience this or you know somebody that's experienced this. Okay, cool. We got somebody coming up already. Good day. How are you feeling, Sophia?
I'm well. How are you? You know
Great.
what? I
Besides this
already know.
sinus drainage.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please be well because man, sinus drainage will run straight to your
Oh,
stomach, and
it's the
then you like,
worst.
oh Lord, can it get any worse?
And the thing, Sophia, is I never get sick. I'm serious. Like I haven't had, and I wouldn't call this sick, but I haven't had anything like this for probably like 3 years or something, 4, because I don't get sick. So this is like it just. Oh, I always have so much super energy, but it's like the sinus drainage. I'm just. I hate you guys can tell. I look that much different. It sound that much
No,
different.
no, no. Your body lets you know when you need to rest.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Your
true.
body lets you know.
That's true. I definitely we're not doing a long one today. I know that I wanted to get in, do this, and because I know there were people yesterday that said that they want to talk about it, but
Okay.
don't mind me, don't mind me. We're gonna truck
Okay.
through it. So
Okay.
did you want to come up and speak on anything dealing with this, Miss Sophia?
You know what? I've had two miscarriages before. It
Oh wow.
really didn't affect me. It can, and I hate to say it, but for me, I knew how people act, and I didn't want to be soap opera-ish. I didn't want to react from, saying how they thought I should act and everything. Saying it didn't take me long to recover from it. Now, if it had have been uh Ebony or Coco, so my children that I embrace and laugh and, and tell them, hey, no, no, say, or, say, hey, you got two teeth. It would have been different. Even, saying right now, you know, um, if something happened to them right now, y'all, I would be rolling on the floor, probably rolling on the ground. Y'all wouldn't be able to, saying to comfort me. And saying it's just, saying it's because that's the type of person I am. Yeah, it would bother me and everything. I've had one abortion, but that baby was a sickly baby, and I think about it because it was something completely different, and it was a baby that had formed enough, and and I tell people I was like, I've never had a son. My dad had 9 kids. I'm the only one that never had a son. And the lady asked me if I wanted to know the sex. No, I don't. No, I don't, because it took me some years and comfort, saying from my immediate family because we were closed in and everything. They had to just tell me, Sophia, saying, try to think about something else.
Uh huh.
That's the worst advice. You can't think about anything else. Saying, and that's a baby that I was like, well, saying maybe if, saying maybe if I can touch the baby, maybe if, saying we connected and everything, but that baby had too many, saying too much going on negatively as far as, saying trying to survive. And I was like, God, forgive me. I don't want to be selfish, but I'm gonna be selfish. And then I was like, you know what? It's gonna hurt the baby. So, saying I always celebrate January the 4th. If it's a day that, say on my profile or whatever, I'll put January the 4th because that would have been the baby's birthday. Coco is January the 9th. Ebony is January the 27th. So to add insult to injury, I'm like, man, I'm not going to ever forget this baby. And so every January the 4th, so I look and I don't say, oh, well, my baby would have been, granted, my son would have been 18 this coming up January the 4th and everything. What I do is I just buy stuff. And if I see a baby, so I just tell the parent, I was like, can I get this to the baby? That's what helped me to this day. I'll never forget it. I never got to hold and touch. And I had to pull myself away from those who did hold and touch their babies. And I had two daughters that I held and touched. But because I didn't hold and touch that one, every January the 4th, I try to go out and go shopping and do stuff. And I'll just tell, saying somebody, hey, I got to build a bear. Can I, give it to the baby and everything. Let them name it and do something, and that consoles me. Out, God have mercy on me. But for anybody who's lost a baby, it tears you apart.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a comfort, please share it with me. But you know what? That's your story. I'll never get comfort from it.
Mm.
I'm not even sure if I want comfort
Why do you say that? You say you're
because
not sure if you want comfort. What does that mean?
um
And
I
that's
will
not. And that's not a question, negative or positive. I just think that's interesting how you said that.
for me this January the 4th will be 18 years. Every January the 4th, I'll think, even if I don't mention it or whatever, I'll always buy a baby a toy. I think I've met one person I met one lady whose daughter uh, baby would have been January the 4th in 2004. And but that baby don't have to want for anything. That baby, if they, if she needs something or whatever, and we really don't know each other, but she knows that that day is something sentimental to me, and we talked about it. So whenever saying that it's the baby birthday, she already know that I'm gonna bring something. I don't share a birthday with the baby, so I've given her Christmas presents and everything, but in my heart, that's what's gonna fix me. I'll listen to people and I'll stand back, but it's just something to where I'll never be able to be consoled with until I'm not here anymore.
So
I'm
you
selfish.
saying
I'm
basically that you don't like for people to tell you that it's going to be okay.
Well, I know that it's not going to be for me. It's not going to be okay. And I've gotten
Mm-hmm.
over a lot of stuff in my life, but that's something that that's that's something. And people do whatever they do for their reason. But for me to not have a baby because of a situation that he couldn't control or she couldn't control or whatever and everything. Like I said, I have my living children, but saying that's something that was in me and I couldn't embrace it and everything. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even have I didn't have a decision, but I know that child would have been loved. I
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have anything to do with the gentleman. He was like, well, you didn't have this baby because you didn't like me. And I said, no, that's not true. And he was like, well, then have it. And he couldn't understand that, hey, this is a sick baby. No
Mm-hmm.
baby wants to be born with, so all of the defects and illnesses. So, so understand. And he was like, hey, I hate you, this and that. Had a baby, had a baby, had a baby. I'll take care of it. He was, saying a petroleum engineer. So yes, he could have, but I was like, no, no, no. There's no money that can, saying deal with it. And he was like, well, then have the baby. And I was like, no, I can't. I can't hurt the baby and everything. And so, and I really wasn't messed up about his feelings, but it's just the fact that when a doctor was like, look, no, you cannot do this. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. And so that was something that I had to deal with, but I couldn't deal with. I couldn't deal with. And so I do, you know what I'm saying, for me, for the ones who have had the, you know what I'm saying, the you hear about the baby getting shot in the mall, the little, 14, 15 year old and everything. I definitely understand. I'm on bended knee with you. And it's not fake. I'm on bended knee with you, you know what I'm saying, with you because I feel it in my throat even talking about it. That's just something to where, saying some days it, saying it comes and some days it goes. But I sympathize with anybody who, saying deal with it and everything. And that's why, saying, and I love you so much, even though you're sick, for covering this, because this is therapy. This is, you don't know how much therapy that you give people who don't want to, saying call in, but they listening.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll
That's why I
find a
wanted to
way.
push through this. And Sophia, we're gonna speak it. Don't say I'm sick. I don't even receive that I'm sick. I'm just gonna
Okay.
say it's a sinus drainage, so I can get over that thing. I don't even want to speak that word because
God, God,
when I do
we
these,
gonna rebuke that right now.
yeah, we
We gonna
gonna
rebuke
rebuke
that.
that. That's why when I was even talking about it, I didn't want to concern you guys to think I was like so sick that I wasn't gonna come on here. No, I'm not that sick at all. I mean, I'm not. I don't feel that under the weather. Because if I did, I just wouldn't come on. I'm pretty sure you guys will understand it. But to me, at certain points with certain things, sometimes you just gotta fight through things. Like even with me, I can. I'm just not gonna talk as much because, like I said, it's sinus drainage, so it's going down the back like of my throat. But I mean, I know like I wanted to create a space for you guys to talk, and I feel like this is really more important than I think it is because for me to all of a sudden get wake up this morning and feel like I have a sinus drainage like that, I feel like that's weird. I don't even get sick. I haven't been out doing anything to get this, so I was like, you know what? I'm just still gonna push through it, because sorry guys, excuse me, it's important. I think it's super important to talk about this, and I'm going to go as long as I feel like I can stand. But yeah, no, I definitely wanted to create this space. Simon asked me, when you are discussing losing a child, do you mean physically or a child being taken away against your will? Both. I mean, I believe that feels like a passing too. So I mean, if you have a story you want to come up and talk about losing your child literally or physically, yes. I mean, literally yeah, I said that right. Literally, physically, yeah. I mean, because if a child's taken away and you can't see them, that's just like a loss too. So, um,
That was a
we're
wonderful
talking literally.
question.
Go ahead, Sophia.
I said that was a wonderful question.
Yeah, it was, and I'm glad he asked it because really, that's I it and it's really good because I definitely want to hear it from the perspective, in the male's perspective, because even the way he just asked that, a lot of people wouldn't even have thought about, but it hurts him just that way when he loses a child because of custody battles and stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's why I definitely feel
Exactly.
like this topic is important because we wouldn't have thought about it that way as women. Like we would just, be like, okay, whatever. But he actually is looking at it. It hurts me just as much if my child is taken from me. So yeah, I mean any of that, Simon Hectic, if your child was physically taken away and you could not get to your child for some reason, or permanently taken away, yes. So Sophia, you could stay up. I want to read some more of this article, just to kind of help those in the shadows, like you said. Some people really just feel so hurt by it. They won't come up and talk because it can just be something really heavy on their heart. So that's why I definitely want to have kind of two pieces of work, two forms of work that kind of talked about how you deal with it, what it looks like, even if those people did not feel comfortable enough to come up. So I will read through a little bit more of this because I feel like this is super interesting. It breaks down grief into three ways: biologically, um, socially, and what was the other one? Biology. I think it was physically. Yep. All right. So here we go. It says, as with all major grief responses, the trauma of losing a child can kick off physical symptoms, including stomach pains, muscle cramps, headaches, and even irritable bowel syndrome. A handful of studies have found more tenuous links between unresolved grief and immune disorders, cancers, long-term genetic changes at the cellular level. One surprising impact often seen among parents mourning the loss of a child is known as the broken heart syndrome. And Sophia, you can tell me after I read this if this is what you experienced. It says a condition that presents oddly like a textbook heart attack. Symptoms include crushing chest pain, ST segment elevation of the electrocardiography, elevated cardiac enzyme markers on lab reports. And then she says, as a reaction to emotional and physical stress, the body's natural response is to release cytokines, also known as stress hormones, that temporarily stun the heart muscle. Did you feel anything of the such, Sophia? I know you said that you chose to block it off, but was that anything that you felt?
Exactly. I had attack, and I did not know what was going on and everything. And you know, I had to take a break from dealing with patients at one point in time or whatever. And it's not that it, I thought that and the way that I perceive it is that, so I'm seeing, some people with babies, or I may, saying if I'm working on the geriatric floor and everything, and kids come around and everything, for some reason I broke down and I had panic attacks. And so I had to, go and talk to people or whatever. And, I talk to people, they sit down and we talk, not a therapy group, but to talk to people who had these situations. I didn't want to textbook, saying diagnosis and this and that. I did go to the hospital. I was immediately hospitalized for having the panic attacks and everything or whatever. And I'll share this with you, Miss B Finesse. When you told me that, saying that you were dealing with the baby and everything or whatever, you don't know how I used to just grin from ear to ear. And I was like, I'm gonna have me a grandbaby one day and everything, and I'm gonna be just like this. And saying, I was like, she exercising and she's doing this and that. And I was like, I'm gonna make sure that I stay a busybody so I can turn around and I can be active and everything. And I was like, you know what, God, nothing's gonna break me down. Yeah, I'll deal with these, some stressors and everything. I will make sure that I won't stroke out, but I'm gonna lift myself up and everything. And I love the joy that other people present to me to let me know that I'm worth something. But that pulled me through, saying you talking about the baby and everything. And I don't know if you notice, but every now and again, I'll ask about you, but I'll ask about the baby. And that's what lifts me up. Other people happiness and joy. It's not a jealousy. And some women have that jealous syndrome or whatever.
True.
But the fact that, saying that, saying the baby is fine and this and that and everything. And I've heard your baby, saying on your lives and everything. And I just bust out laughing. I was like, bless her heart and everything. And I just say, saying, I'll say, to myself in the chat, girl, you better go and get that baby. And so, so that's my therapy, listening to people, hearing children play outside or whatever. That was, saying the thing that broke me out of, saying the panic attacks. I don't have attacks anymore. But what it did is it let me focus on the joy other people have. If thinking about the, saying what I could have had but didn't have bring me down, things turned around. I don't know who, saying flipped the record over, but I get joy from hearing about people, family experience, people, babies and stuff like that. But yeah, the panic attack was to the point to where I was in a doctor's office. A doctor was called and, saying came in, and he was like, immediately go to the hospital. You need to immediately go to the hospital. And I was like, okay, which I went to the bank, went to the grocery store, left some emergency money for my kids. And I was like, saying, give me some drawers and a toothbrush and everything. I'm going to go to the hospital. So, it was that crucial. And everybody experience is different because a lot of people lie. You go to the doctor and you want to get fixed, but you lie and you don't tell the truth. And I'm pretty sure you as a teacher have seen poor little babies in certain situations and everything, and you already know, but it's just hard for them to, saying, admit it. I don't know if it's shame or whatever, but I had to break myself from that mode and be completely honest. And then that allowed me to rise above all of the animosity from not being able to have a baby, or, saying, beating myself up about it. It's not for us to go on in life and constantly, saying, get beat down saying broken or whatever. Mentally, I was beating myself up cat raggedy. And I was like, there's no way that I can turn around and help other people if I can't even help me. So thank you so much for what you do, because everybody on the platform or whatever, they do stuff. And I'll give you another example.
Mm-hmm.
Gail at night used to it's something about her aura. I would shuck and jive and laugh and play with everything or whatever. And then, saying Gail was, she's the type of person to where she's gonna keep it real. And even with, saying what saying what she put in the chat or whatever, I was like, you know what? This a real woman. I'm gonna have to straighten up. I'm not saying she don't have fun. It's just that certain, saying she keeps me grounded, and I love it because, like I said, I don't have a family. I'm just, saying a free floating, element somewhere and everything. So everything that the people put in the chat, it means I don't take it personal if they say that and everything. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. But it's certain people that can keep me grounded. You with your positivity, I, and I told you that. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I can, if I'm not working or whatever, I'll do that because people don't understand the you know what I'm saying, the pull from it. You know what I'm saying, you can be down and a negative person can walk past, and you'll want to stay down, but you'll get up because that person walked past you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Big Bad Bull, that's just randomly started speaking. And so, so when I see that, so I get a joy. I try to be as much of an introvert as I want to be. And my kids was like, Mama, you an extrovert. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And, you know what I'm saying? They was like, you can't choose to. Just go ahead and be you. And so I stayed to myself. And my daughter said, can't nobody pick you up unless you allow yourself to get broken out of that shell and talks, what I'm saying, listening to your show. I love everybody's show, but there's only one you. There's only one you. So thank you
So
so much for
Sophia, you sound muffled now. I heard you say show and then like you got muffled. Did you change something?
I just
Now I hear
turned
you.
around.
Now I
Okay.
hear you. So what did you
Uh-uh.
just said something?
I do appreciate the show for, saying,
Oh,
picking us up. And I just said it's only one you. I appreciate everybody's platform,
thank
but I'm saying it's something that about you to where, saying you do it when saying it may not be a when it may be 7 or 8 day out of a 10 day or whatever, and you still come on your platform, you was like, you know what? You get results, not excuses.
yeah.
So of course we love that. And when you're a broken element, you just need, saying certain people to keep you on that positive road. I
Mm-hmm.
love everybody, but I can't, sometimes I can't do everybody's show. If I tune
Right.
into your show, I know I can do it. So I just love you for being you.
Thank you, Sophia. And even today, like I said, I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna push through. It's not gonna be a long one, but just like I told you guys, faithfully inspiring, innovating, being effective, seek success every day. I can I can sit down and sit to the side and chill around my family, but still I want to stay not too close to them and the baby, just because, like I said, it's a sinus drainage. I don't think you can catch that, but yet and still, you know, it's you don't really want to just kind of sit around people a lot, but even in the finesse name, I was like, you know what? I know if I go in here and do this, God, you just whoever I need to touch, I'm gonna come on here and do your will because I really, really want to go to sleep because I was asleep before I came on here. But I know from just you guys telling me, like I said, in the back end and on here, how much it helps you guys get through the day. So, I mean, to me, okay, I might not be feeling good, but I might be able to inspire one of you guys or get you motivated and get you moving. I even feel like my voice is sounding better now because I probably did sound like a little drawn out snail earlier. I don't know, but I just felt like I said, sometimes you just got to push through the pain, push through whatever it is. I'm not in pain, guys. I'm just saying, like, I'm not totally myself, but I'm still going to get on here and finish and do what I said I was going to do. So, and I think that sometimes in life, you're right, Sophia, like, you just got to push through some things. And I mean, now if it's something where it's like life or death, duh, okay, you guys won't see me now. But I'm just saying, like, I know from hearing from you guys how you said that it makes your day. You know, you love being here with the community. You guys love talking to each other. So I said, you know what, just push through, try to get through an hour or whatever, you know, have the conversation, let people come up and talk. They'll understand. I told you guys from the beginning, you know, I have a little drainage, so I'm not going to be super like I am, but I'm still here and I'm going to give you guys what I can give you. So um, I appreciate you saying that. It always makes a difference that I can impact you guys in some type of way. I love the fact that, like I said, we're a small little ball that's rolling and getting bigger and bigger. And I just appreciate that, you know, it affects you guys in some way that, you know, and especially like you just said, you know, Big Bad Bull, like everybody, right when you guys come in, everybody's talking, greeting each other. You know, it's not any spatting going on. And even in the chat, like you said, even with Gail, for the most part, Gail's very neutral. But you know, if she sees that she needs to say something, or she sees something going down in the chat that she knows, like I don't like, or something like that, or she just knows, like, you know, that's not how Miss B flows. I love how she's tactful. She's not over anything. She's just very tactful because she knows how much it matters to me, this show, and giving you guys what you need, and Vaughn, you know. So I definitely appreciate that you spoke that to Gail, because she takes it very serious when she does the moderating, and she just wants the show to be the very best for the content creator. So shout out to Gail for that. I do appreciate that, Sophia. I definitely appreciate you coming up, telling your story. You can stay up here as long as you want. Um, I want to
Miss
finish
B
reading.
Finesse,
What's up?
if I can say, I would
Yeah, go ahead.
definitely love for a man to please come up. Please, if a man can come up, for the simple fact,
Yeah,
we
that's
as
what I want.
women are known as the emotional beings. But you know what? When the gentleman had that question, you know, it uh,
Oh, that's Simon.
labeling is something that's really not cool, because men are emotional beings too. We all are human. So, you know, the labeling, no, no, no. I want to hear, you know, from your heart how you feel about this matter.
Right. And even, and like you said, hypothetically, how would that sound? I do have well, there was a guest that I was gonna have coming up, but I think that I forgot the time difference change. So they're on a different time zone. So if I can stand waiting until they get up here, I will, because they're just getting off work now. They just text me. And they're in a different time zone. So I think I started earlier than I should have, but yeah, you know, I'm gonna stay open. I'm gonna read the two reports. I have one specifically for men, and yeah, if there's any of them that want to come up, if you know a man that has been through this, or you can speak to that too. If you know somebody also, especially a male that has been through this, you can speak to how they felt. So like I said, I know my show's a little bit on a different time, because normally we do 1 o'clock, but I was facilitating who wanted to come up, because they said that they were gonna. But I keep forgetting time differences, so I'm definitely gonna keep reading this, because I do have two reports just for those that come in and want to know about the topic. It says psychological impacts: how the trauma of losing a child harms the psyche. All right. It says the impacts of this tragedy are not solely biological. Interestingly, however, very few studies have delved into the nightmare of the passing of a child. Most of the research on the psychological response to the passing focuses on the loss of a spouse or partner. And that's true. I think a lot of times when they do talk about, you know, the passing, it's always a spouse. They don't, I've never really honestly heard a lot of stuff or studies or anything about when kids pass. You normally hear about spouses. It says presumably this is a part this is in part because of the difficulty of finding subjects to study. Okay, that makes sense, guys. And also the potential difficulty in recruiting parents on anything longitudinal. So basically, what this is saying, guys, is there's not a lot of studies on how parents and specifically men deal with this, because number one, it's not a lot of people that want to come talk about it. Ergo, like we can see, there's not a lot of people that really feel like they can come up and they can talk about what's really going on. And then the second thing, guys, a lot of people okay and the second thing, guys, a lot of people They don't want to stay in it. They don't want to stay in a study that long just because they're dealing with a lot of things. So that's what that's saying. That makes sense to me. People don't want to keep reliving the trauma. A lot of people don't. It says, while there have been significant advances in our scientific understanding of grief, we have a long way to go. That's not to say we are without literature. It says there was a 2015 study of 2,000 bereaved adults, and these are many of whom were mourning the loss of a child. Found little or no evidence of depression in 68% of those surveyed shortly after. Wow, that's interesting. Did you hear that, Sophia? It says that it said they did a study in 2015 of 2,000 parents, and it says and they found little to no evidence of depression in 68% of those surveyed shortly after the tragedy.
I think they just not saying nothing.
Yeah, kind of, and I think kind of the what you said too when you first came in. You said, you know what? Yeah, I think so. I think you said how you chose not to let it get to you. Is that what you said earlier?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But when and what it did is when it did break me down, it's like I said, my sister and brother just had to come, and I was staying at Tennessee. I was staying in Tennessee at the time, and I had a sister that was like an hour away, and my brother was staying in Texas at the time, and they would come down. They was like, saying just calm down, and everything. It's kind of like the closest to me was when, oh my God, I can't think of that movie. When the man and the lady was arguing about and he wanted to leave and the poor baby, I think she stuck a fork in the socket and everything. And the baby ended up passing. The man had left and so they had to give the poor lady a bath. I cannot think of that movie to save my life. But she just broke down because the husband left, the baby was gone, and she had to find a way to just pick herself up. And there were people that was just, nurturing to her and everything because the poor lady was broken. So, and that's pretty much how I could identify with her because it it did something to me when it finally kicked in. And I think you do more damage to yourself when you don't relieve your emotion and you don't be you, when you hide and bottle that stuff up. And when you finally do let it, saying come out, you choking. You choking, saying you hurting yourself and you just trying to find a way to get a breath of life. You trying to find a way, saying to pull yourself out of that. So I they have to be hiding. It's just kind of like going to the doctor and saying the people with their uh zip their Ziploc bag of
Mm-hmm.
medication.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they got the Ziploc bag because they're not taking it.
Oh
So no
yeah.
empty bottles. They still got that Ziploc bag and everything. And I think that people at certain times they become the person with the Ziploc bag with all their bottles.
Mm, that's amazing to me though. 68% survey said they have no evidence of depression. Wow. Let me keep reading what it says. It says about 11% initially suffered from depression but improved, and it says 7% had symptoms of depression before the loss, which continued. Said for 13% of the bereaved, chronic grief and clinical depression kicked in only after their lives were turned upside down. Says for those numbers seem low, it's worth remembering that it is entirely possible to be deeply sad without being depressed. Oh, so do you agree with that statement, Sophia? It says it is entirely possible to be deeply sad without being depressed.
That's 100. What for me, it was 100% correct because it broke me down, but I wasn't depressed. I wasn't this and that and everything. So I definitely agree with that.
That is very, very interesting. That is interesting. And I've never delved into it that deep because I've never lost a child. So, Saquana said this is the movie Woman of Brewster's Place. Is that what it was?
I believe.
Uh huh.
Yes, 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 yes.
Cool. Woman of Brewster's Place. Also got man. If you guys do want to come up and talk about it, or you know a friend that's been through it, or any ladies that know, it could be your husband. If you've been through it, it could be your husband, your spouse, or the spouse or your boyfriend, or whoever you went through it with. I definitely want to hear your perspective. That's what definitely why I created this. I know there was another person too. Like I said, I had changed the time on this, guys, but it's all good. I do have a study for those because I know a lot of people are kind of still feel some type of way talking about it. But like I said, I do have a third party study on this, so we could still, whoever's listening on the restream could still have the data that they need. It says, unfortunately, the research suggests that psychological damage was done by a child's death often does not heal over time. A 2008 study found that even 18 years after losing a child, bereaved parents reported more depressive symptoms, poor well being, and more health problems, and were more likely to have experienced a depressive episode or marital disruption. So, my question to you, Sophia, from the father of your child, did you talk to him at all after you lost the child?
He refused to speak with me afterwards, but I told him that the doctor told me, Sophia, you can't be selfish. The baby won't make it. The baby won't make it if you turn around and try to force this on him. And it was you know how they have the medical, hey, if you've taken this, or this and that, your child may have that, and that, and everything. Do not take the medication. Well, I didn't know I was pregnant. I was taking,
Oh,
I was taking like 4 of the 11 drugs that they was like, hey, don't take it and everything or whatever. And the stuff that they claimed that the child could, saying have, my child actually had it,
oh wow.
inside of me. And I was, so the doctor was like, hey, we're not going to let this happen. And to the point to where I wasn't allowed to see the ultrasound. And so I was like, that's pretty heavy. And, I
Mhm.
was trying to explain it to a person who's not trying to listen. We never did talk. And he was like, I did it on purpose. And I do know
Well,
a lot of people lie. I do know a lot of people lie.
did he
But I
ever
was
say he wanted to come with you to any like of the appointments or anything like that? Or did you tell him right when you found out something was wrong with
I
the child?
told him exactly when I found out, and I told him, saying what I was going to do. And he was like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to pay for it and everything. I said, you know what? I got it covered. I got it covered. I was like, I'm just telling you and everything or whatever. And he was like, well, I can take care of you. And I was like, but you do not want, the worst thing that I've dealt with is, tutoring a sickly patient, saying helping being the caretaker. And even with the problems that I had, there was a paraplegic baby, and that child told me all the time, "I wish I was you. I wish I was you. I wish I was you." And here I am with the blue eye. There's so much stuff going on. I was like,
Mhm.
"No, baby, be yourself. Be yourself." And
Mhm.
that child was miserable. He was like, "I hate it when I go to a park." And so I see people throwing, but my mama's stupid. She always bring me to a park. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, calm down. And he was like, can I talk, please? Nobody let me talk. They tell me how I should be, and they don't give me the opportunity to think. They don't give me the opportunity to be me. He said, I want to be you. I don't care how bad you think your life is, you walking. And so that kind of, started breaking my mold and everything about, sometimes, and it's nice to have babies with these type of things, but you don't know how it's going to affect them. You don't know how to affect them. I tried to reach out to the gentleman and everything, and it broke his spirit. And I do understand because he was raised by his grandparents. The only thing he wanted was a family, but it just wasn't meant to be. Not at that time. It wasn't meant to be. I'm pretty sure he's met a healthy person who could give him everything he needed, but at that particular time, it wasn't meant to be. So he never did. He was never wanted to speak and everything or whatever. And I kind of feel sorry for him because see, I had two daughters and divorced and everything. So it's not like it would have been a problem on top of a problem. But he didn't have anybody but himself. So I'm pretty sure that it affected him more than me. Everybody deserves to be happy, but he was so broken and so hurt to where we never spoke.
Interesting. Huh. Men in the chat, if you had a child and in utero, I want the men to answer this. If you had a child in utero and the doctors were telling you and the woman that the baby is going to have so many complications, it's either not going to live or it's not going to have a long life if it did live, would you still want to have the child? I definitely want to know what the men think about that. Because I know as a woman, our perspective is if a doctor tells us it's not going to work, then we'll listen. But I definitely want to hear what the men think. Once again, if you're with a woman or your wife, and the doctors are telling them that the baby's either not going to live in utero or the baby, when they come out, their life is not going to be worth living, then you still want to have the baby. I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about that. All right, let me go through this study again. It says the first year after losing a younger child, a parent is at an increased risk for deletion and everything from major depression to complicated grief. Complicated grief differs from expected normal grief in that there are more intense symptoms, alternating with seemingly no symptoms, numbness, which potentially impairs their ability to function. It says a parent who grieves without any type of serious complications, such as deletion thoughts or self-harming behaviors, would be the best case scenario. A physical, Kristen Fuller, a physical and clinical writer of the Center of Discovery Treatment Centers. Worst case scenarios would be experience deletion tendencies, psychosis, and developing a mental health disorder or eating disorder. Did you develop any of those things, Sophia? Eating disorder, psychosis, or feeling like you wanted to hurt, delete yourself or whatever?
That I never had problems with it. I know that now that like now that I'm getting close to some things, or which I don't know if you've noticed, I'm really 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 close. My dad has been dead for, I said 7, it's actually 8 years, and with him, I put myself, I don't know it, but people outside tell me, hey, you're acting a certain type of way, you act distant from the world. I've never felt, saying uh, a deletion of myself or hurting somebody else. I don't. Uh, I do know that sometimes I don't eat, and and that's what, even being a type 1 diabetic, I have to eat. Sometimes I just simply don't eat and everything. But saying, as far as wanting to pull myself away from people, I actually love people a lot, but sometimes I will turn around and just be happy by myself. And I have to make sure that I'm mentally focused, for the simple fact sometimes, how sometimes it'll rub off on people, and they'll feel that you're hurting. So then now they're picking up your traits. I had problems like that, even with, saying my daughters. So they felt so bad for me to where I will say, both of my daughters were depressed at one time. And so that's why you need to talk and have therapy and have the cycle, because I don't know what I was emitting, saying per se the exact things that saying, but my actions, or how I was just, saying, probably be teary eyed or something. They know that on January the 4th, that it's a day, and they're okay with it now. But at one point in time, they were trying to have, there was like, they became depressed because they wanted to have a child to replace my child. And I just told him, I said, I apologize for being so senseless and selfish. I was like, y'all live y'all life. Y'all live your life and you have fun. I was like, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. And if not, have me committed or something, but don't try to have a child because I'm miserable, or I'm, you see, and you on the outside looking in, and you see that I want something that I can't have anymore. I can, there's nothing I can do to replace, saying baby C. I got an A or B. So I don't have baby C. So I had to talk to therapists and saying get certain saying groups of people and everything and go to eateries or coffee shops saying and just sit down and express ourselves because you can be in a certain type of mental status to where it rubs off. And my kids are 22 and 29 and they having a time of their life. I don't want them to have a baby for me. That's so, and I was like, God, I'm tacky. Can saying fix me? I was like, please, saying rebuke me, whatever you have to do, but for me to act a certain way and to and I was like, apparently I'm lashing out, not being evil, but sometimes you can act a certain way or just not snap out of it. Every time I see Mama, she teary eyed, and this day is gonna come and everything to where they was like, Mama, we'll have a baby, and I was like, no, 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 I love y'all. Maybe it's not meant for me to have a grandbaby. Maybe it's not meant for me. I can't have no other baby, even if I wanted to. I said, so y'all, if y'all happy, I'm happy. And that's
Right.
how I had to pull myself out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Vanessa, it was so ugly to where whatever I was doing, it broke them down. I was like, nope,
Wow.
nope, nope.
Yeah, because a child, I don't think we realize how much your child ingests your pain, your sadness, your happiness. Even if you don't see it when they go in their rooms or around their other friends, if they don't show it to you, they're feeling what you're feeling a lot of times. So sometimes you have to really be careful how much emotions you show in front of them because they internalize it and they assume it's something they can fix when sometimes it has nothing to do with them. So you definitely have to make sure you speak with them. And Simon, I'm not sure what you meant. So if you want to come up before I end my second article, I definitely want you to come up. You said not an option, so I don't know what that means. That option is a tough choice. That's what Wally said. I definitely need you guys to come up and speak from the in your perspective. So even if you did not go through that, what would in your mindset would it be that you feel about the woman if that was to happen, or what you feel about yourself when you're losing a child. It says, where was I at? Okay, one of the most salient predictors of trauma is the age of the child. Miscarriages and stillbirths are devastating and made worse by the fact that the loss is often diminished by the public's perception that a fetus is not a fully formed baby. But it is as devastating as the death of a child, passing of a child who has been alive for many years. Not to diminish this experience, but I think not, Carr says. If the child is born, however, the script flips. Older adults who outlive their children generally have an easier time coping than parents who lose a child very young. The age of the child is really important because it speaks to promise, Carr says. When a young child dies, that promise dies. When a young child passes away, the promise passes away with them. The graduation, the grandbabies, the marriages, that's lost too. So that's kind of speaking to what you were saying, right, Sophia?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It says,
Exactly.
nevertheless, even older adults may suffer intensely after the passing of an adult child. You can meet someone who is 75 who loses a 50-year-old child and is still devastating, says Carr. There's a belief in natural order. A parent should pass first. So even age matters. Older parents still are quite bereaved. They're just losing less of the long term promise. So social impacts. How the loss of a child strengthens or ruins a family. It says there's major stress factors naturally take a toll on marriages, but divorce is the aftermath of a child after in the aftermath of a child's death is inevitable. It's really important to underscore that the passing of a child is not going to ruin a marriage. When dealing with illness and addiction, spouses who disagree over the best course of treatment are particularly at high risk. If a spouse blames the other or feels the other did something to hasten the death, that's almost something that cannot be recovered from. And I've heard that a lot. A lot of marriages, when the child passes, especially when they're a child or in utero or whatever, there's a blame game that goes on between the mother and the father because of their grief and depression. Um, it says when dealing with terminally ill children, One popular risk is that other siblings may feel neglected or find too many responsibilities foisted upon them while the parents shift their focus solely on the suffering child. I've seen this before. A sick child is going to consistently get more attention, and then the other children feel like they're being neglected. Plus, there's a extra role put on those kids because now they have to be in some sorts of adult now because that sickly child is going to need everybody's help and attention. So I've seen that where kids take that person personal because the parent is putting all that pressure on them. Um, okay, cool. So that's that article, and I'm going to swiftly go through this one. Let's see. Hey, OG Patrice, glad you are here. Okay, Simon says he'll come up. So, um, let me go through this next article. Is there anything you wanted to add, Sophia, from what I said that you want to maybe agree or disagree with before I go to the next article?
No, no, no. You everything is. I think we covered that really well.
Yeah, guys, I'm pushing through it, so I'm gonna try to get through this next article, and then I'm gonna end it at that. What I might do is like a part two to this too, because like I said, I had somebody who was supposed to come on, but I lost the track of time. I didn't lose the track of time; they're just on a different time zone, and I definitely want him to speak to this because he definitely wants. He has something to say about it. So I might just do a part two to, just because, like I said, me talking for this long period of time. Okay, so father's role in the loss of a child. So it says, while many fathers may put an outward display of strength, inside they are as heartbroken as any parent would be over the loss of a child. All right, let me put this up so you guys can see this article. All right. Once again, guys, make sure you hit the bell coming in. Make sure you guys have your notifications on, and make sure you hit the button for this content, and make sure you're sharing it. Okay, father's role in the loss of a child. Here we go. All right. Okay, says many fathers may put an outward display of strength inside as they are heartbroken as many parents would be over the loss of a child. They experience the same stages of grief as anyone else, even if they do not always express it. Society often focuses on the mother, but fathers also need support while being allowed to grieve on their terms. How men grieve. While women are generally open to their emotions, men often keep theirs bottled up. A father may not outwardly show any sadness over the loss of his child, either because of the societal pressure to be strong or the feeling that he must be there to support his wife. Grieving silently. Many men have been taught that they should not share their emotions or reach out for support. They are raised to be strong in times of trouble, thus have often grieved silently. This does not mean he is not grieving, it just means he is doing it differently. All right, so this article is saying men grieve differently. And I knew that just because, like I said, I've talked to men that have grieved from the loss of a child. And like I said, this article is very impactful because it goes into the specifics. All right, so let's get into this for people listening on the restream. We're going into specifically now how the loss of a child is affecting fathers. All right. All right, so it says grieving silently. Many men have been taught that they should, did I just read that? Not share their emotions or reach out for support. They are raised to be strong in times of trouble. Thus, they often grieve silently. This does not mean they're not grieving. It just means they're doing it differently. Grieving physically. Men often express their grief physically. A grieving father may throw himself into work or projects around the house, or he may take up a hobby to keep himself occupied and avoid dealing with his emotions. He may turn to physical activity, such as playing basketball or going to the gym, to get the anger out. He may avoid contact with his wife because he doesn't know how to deal with her emotions on top of his. Whatever form his grief takes, a father must be allowed to process his feelings in his own way. Let me read that again for the people in the back. All right? It says, whatever form his grief takes, talking about the father here, a father must be allowed to process his feelings in his own way. All right. He must be allowed to process his feelings in his own way. And I think, guys, once again, this goes deeper into beyond the loss of a child, just anything, especially if you're arguing with a man about or you're having, discord or contention. They're going to process feelings in their own ways. They're not going to be like us as women. All right. They're going to deal with it a lot different. Helping a grieving father. Society often neglects to care for the grieving father, showering all its support on the mother. Once again, it says society often neglects to care for grieving fathers, showing all its support to the grieving mothers. Before I continue, Sophia, do you agree or disagree with that?
I definitely agree with that. That's 100% accurate in my opinion.
Okay. All right, let me keep going. It says, be supportive. Okay, so these are the things that you should be doing to help men when they're grieving. All right, so I'm going to say each bullet point first, and then I'm going to read it. So it says, be supportive. Don't pressure him. Listen. Help him with daily tasks and invite him out. All right, so let's go through each bullet point. All right, here we go. Be supportive. He may need help with funeral arrangements, including driving him to the funeral home, picking up a casket, and selecting flowers. So just support. Don't pressure him. If the father refuses to talk about his child's passing, do not try to force the issue. Henceforth, that's why even right now, I know a lot of you know somebody that's been through this, or you have men, but I'm going to continue the conversation even if one of you doesn't feel comfortable coming up, because right here, I'm not going to pressure anybody to speak on this. Like I said before, guys, there was a person that's supposed to come up and talk on this, but I got the time zones off. They're like 4 hours time zone different, 3 hours difference. All right. But for those of you that I know might not have felt comfortable speaking on this. So once again, it says, if the father refuses to talk about his child's death, don't try to force the issue. Let him know that if he needs to talk, you'll be there to listen. Listen. When he is ready to start talking, just listen. When he is ready to start talking, just listen. Tell him how sorry you are for his loss. Use his child's name. Do not throw cliches at him, such as, your child is in a better place, or now you have an angel to look after you. Not only are these not helpful, but it may make him feel that expressing his emotions is making you uncomfortable, which may cause him to stop talking about his grief. That's interesting, and I think that's imperative, guys. Don't use cliches with people. A lot of times, once again, especially if they're grieving a loss or something like that, let them say what they need to say. Don't just don't patronize them. Next one, help him with daily tasks. Find out what he needs to be done. Show up and just do it. If you ask if he needs anything, he will likely say no. Tell him you will be at his house at a specific time and date to do the laundry, mow the lawn, and that you're dropping off dinner. If he has other children, offer to take them to the movies or the park to give him and his spouse some time alone. Next, invite him out. He may decline, but keep inviting him. Even if he never accepts, sometimes just knowing the invitation is out there, that somebody cares, is enough to get you through the day. Often, friends fade away after the loss of a child because they don't know what to say. He needs to know that you will not abandon him. Man, those are some good bullet points. Okay, I see we got Simon in the back. Hey, Simon, how are you today? Simon, you're on mute, buddy. All right. Simon, you're on, buddy, so I'll keep reading. Okay, you're unmuted. Hey, Simon, how are you?
Simon, you're on mute. You're right. Buddy. How are you?
I'm well. Is there anything you wanted Simon, to add to this conversation? Simon, you gotta mute me in the background.
Hi, Sophia. You're right.
Okay. What did you want to add to this conversation, Simon?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Simon, I mute when you guys talk. I can hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, we can hear you, Simon.
Okay. Okay, cool. No, it's I hope you get better for like starters.
Yeah, it's just a
There's
sinus,
stuff
guys.
going around.
It's not major. It's just a sinus drainage. It sounds really worse than it is, and that's just like the fluid going down your throat instead of out of your nose. And that's, well, normally with me it's like if you sleep under a fan or something like that. So yeah, I'll be good.
Cool.
Thank you for asking them or saying that.
Yeah, blessings from across the pond. How does a man cope with losing a child? So yeah, as I sort of like dropped that little bit of text in the chat because initially, obviously from a personal perspective, I sort of looked at it a bit different, because I can see it from a woman's perspective. If like you know, not you personally, but as a woman, you lose a child, and as part of your physical, you know, being, like in terms of if you've carried a child for a certain amount of time. But as a man, I've experienced, you know, being in a relationship and going through that whole thing where you're having a child together as a couple. You go through that process, and then everything's supposed to be cool, and then something happens where it's just totally out of the blue. And I'm not talking about family courts and all the rest of it. Like a lot of people speak on this whole thing where you're in some sort of relationship and, you know, you're together and then you have some sort of argument and breakup situation, and then it goes to the family court and you start arguing with each other and disputing about assets and goods and all the rest of it. No, this was just like totally out of the blue. This was just like we went on holiday, and when we got to the airport, I was told like they're not coming back, basically. And it was like, well, what's going on? So it was a cultural thing, I'll tell you that. Because we lived in different countries, and at the time, you know, things were going on with you know, the parents and stuff, because they didn't really appreciate certain things going on, and we were both young. But since it's been quite pressing just to keep that relationship up, and it feels like a loss, although, like, you know, we're still in contact and things like that. You know, the child lives in another country, so cope is cover. And how do you cover from afar, without any knowledge, especially as a young person? You know, text messages about what people like and the perspectives you get from the families that are involved can prove difficult. So you have to become mature very quickly within yourself, and for the relationships that you foster, to enable everyone to have a better outcome in the years to come, because having a child is not an overnight thing. You're looking at 25 years minimum, if you do a good job. So I could relate slightly to, and I'm not a woman, so I can't really say what it feels like to lose a child, you know, from a
Well,
perspective.
definitely we know specifically because women are the main people that will discuss it, and we know men won't. So that's why I thought your comment was intriguing because of the way you worded it. Um, I really believe that a lot of women would not have looked at the ideal of not being able to be around the child as a loss, because women 9 times out of 10 will get their babies or have their babies, especially when we're doing custody battles. So I thought that was intriguing because that perspective could hurt even worse. I mean, I can't put a volume on what that hurt feels like. I've had many friends that lost babies, relatives that lost babies. Um, but to know that your child is physically alive and well, but you can't get to them, I thought that spoke volumes, and I definitely wanted you to come and speak on that because I thought that was interesting. Because in a woman's eyes, we don't think about that, because in custody battles we can get the child. We're more likely to get them. So what when you're talking in a loss, what does that feel like to you? You're equating that to feeling like the passing of the child, like in your mindset, what does that feel like to you? Because I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, so thanks for that, because I don't know, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I just mute myself, Simon, when you guys are talking. I hear you.
Cool, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there's a huge disconnect in regards to what a man feels or needs to cope with or lives with when it comes to separation from their child. Um, and often speak is, and this is no one's fault per se, it's just sort of come round that um, the child is hers, like it's her child. And the default is um, that, um, you know, the child um, should be with the woman. Um, I can't really speak for fathers who don't really want to be in the lives of their children. I'm not really interested in that. But if you're making a concerted effort to be a father, um, with all the will in the world, all the strength that you have, within every capacity that you meet, and if you're doing all the right things, you know, you've got a job, you're going to work, you're paying the bills, there's been no arguments, there's been no dysfunction, there's been no violence, there's been no traumatic situations. Um, for some people to just disconnect like that and have no disregard for the fact that you're bringing up a person in the world without both parents, um, is an ideology which has been thrust upon us, uh, which we need to mend, because all it does really is create a dysfunctional society. And, you know, even speaking uh, now to, like, you know, my child's mother, she's not happy. And it's not to say that I could have made her happy, but the influences and the choices that she made based on those influences has now created a person who's living life in a questionable fashion, regardless of what qualifications they have, um, and regardless of what situation they're in. Uh, Chances are they're going to walk into a situation which is going to cause more dysfunction, um, which is going to lead to, you know, potentially me having to step in, um, and spend quite a lot of time trying to, you know, be the mediator between a professional. whether that's a psychologist, a therapist, a mediator. You get all these intermediaries that we've had to sort of deal with in our lives. And that's why I just said, like, I didn't really want to bump in because Miss she was a bit ill, so I didn't really want to
Well,
drag
it's better when you guys
the
are.
arms through the coals. It's like,
No, it's better because, like I said, this whole stream was really not about me talking per se. It was more you guys giving your perspective anyway. So that's why I felt like I knew I could get through it, because it was more so you guys giving your perspective. I'm not. I don't really specialize on this. I thought it was interesting though to hear the perspective of how a man sees it, and even women that have been through, because it took a man for you to go through it. So some of you may still be with the man, or you do remember how he felt when he went through it. And specifically, it's very interesting to me. Even with Sophia, she did say his perspective. She said how he did not want her to let the baby go. She spoke to what he said, and it's a very interesting dichotomy to hear the male's perspective, because we're always just hearing what how the women go through it. So no, I'm listening to you because like I said, I just, and this article is it's proof. It says that I mean, even the last article we read, it talked about only 68% of parents after a child is lost. 68 said they were not depressed or stressed. And that's interesting to me. That's a big chunk of people. And you're losing a child, you don't feel that way. And then we, go into the article, and it talks about how men are actually feeling when they go through it and how to support them. So I think it's imperative. I'm listening to your perspective.
I don't think I don't think a lot of men get support because they're seen as men. Like, you're supposed to be the provider, you're supposed to be the leader, you're supposed to be the keeper of the house. So it's like, but when you're young, especially when you're young, you kind of like think you're old, and you can get involved in relationships and get into some really tricky situations, and only sort of be able to look back, and that could take some time. I mean, some people sort of think looking back is like, a year or 2 years. It could take like 5 or 10 for you to actually understand exactly what was going on, to the best of your abilities, because there's so much fog in the mist when it comes to people and your circles, what you're going through, what other people are going through, and trying to build those bridges to get a better outcome. It could be highly complicated. I mean, not even speaking on the issue I went through personally, like on a basic level. If you're sort of just having like a basic relationship, or I don't know if I should say basic, but if you like boyfriend girlfriend type thing, and you end up having a child, that's a completely different world from college and having like puppy love. And then sort of understanding that the whole process that you go through, and I don't think this is spoken on a lot, in terms of the process you go through as a couple, regardless of if you're getting on or not, is a biological education. Like, prior to that, you're just sort of having fun. But then when you're going into prenatal classes and then you're discussing your anatomy, it doesn't sound so sexy. Do you get what I mean? So I think, like, when people have children, they start to look at each other a bit differently, because you don't generally have that discussion when you're dating. You're just sort of like having a you're sort of just trying to get to know each other, and you have all these thoughts and dreams, and prospects. It's like, oh, I'm going from step to step. I've gone through the system. I'm doing well. I've managed to sort of acquire my qualifications, and you know, um, we're doing well. I've got a good job. Let's move in. What happens when you move in? It's like, well, what's the next step?
Mm-hmm.
Let's have some children.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? Then you start to get to know each other really. You know, but people are different and everyone has their own perspective and experience. So I respect that. On the subject, losing the child is not something I would wish on anybody, because not to be cliche or anything, but we all know that children are the future, and especially when it's ours, it cuts closer to the gravel. It's just, it's our responsibility then. So then there's a reflection on us. And deep down in your heart, if you're a good person, things happen. You live and learn, and you try to make the best of the situation. And that's why I give Grace these types of platforms, because it allows us to have this conversation. So with that, I don't know if you have any other questions, but
Yeah, I definitely wanted you to touch base to what you put in the chat. I think you explained it. I think it's just imperative to me for there to be a space for you guys to say your perspective. Dang it, I went on mute. And I think it's interesting from the eyes of a man how he feels and sees. What I was saying, I don't know if you heard all of it. Would you concur with what the article was saying about a grieving father? Be supportive, don't pressure him, listen, help him with daily tasks, and invite him out. Are those things that you think somebody should do specifically to a father that's grieving? Even if you haven't been through it, but from a male's perspective, are those things that you would want somebody to do? Be supportive, don't pressure him, listen, help him with daily tasks, and invite him out.
not necessarily. I mean, I think everyone's different. I mean, sometimes people need encouragement. You might want to just go rock climbing or something. I mean, it depends on the person you are. Like, some on base level is like, okay, that what that says to me is like a situation where you got like a 2.1 family, and you're in a social situation where that's feasible, where like there's people around you that are supportive, and oh, don't do this, oh, do that. But most of the time, these are anomaly situations. And when people are going through them, there's not really a lot of people around you that relates to your situation. And that goes back to, what Sophia was saying. It's like, you might have friends, family, X, Y, Z, but the fact of the matter is, when you're actually going through it, there may be a disconnect, for whatever reason. It's just timing a lot of the time. And I get the report, and I get I get what they're saying, and it's probably a baseline sort of guideline. It's like a bit of a menu. But if there was like if there was the golden goose that we could all look to when it comes to these sorts of situations, I don't think we'll be having a conversation about it. I think having a conversation about it matters more, and taking the context of reports and statistics and facts that are laid out, from a derivative point, um, assists our conversation. Um, but I think only by us having the conversation as people um, are we able to build on the experiences we've had, um, and try to secure the future for our next generation. And I think it matters to them as well, as much as, because, you know, being a father, I've had my own experiences, but, um, you know, it is what it is. And I guess any man that probably stepped up here will probably say something to the effect. But at least we're at a point where we're able to discuss this sort of stuff, because, you know, given 2 years ago, I don't think that would have been possible. So
Yeah,
respect.
I concur. I concur with you. Like I said, this whole topic, guys, and I'm gonna wrap it around because I'm super proud of myself. I was only really pushing for an hour. We got to an hour and 30 because I've really been pushing through this, guys. So I'm super proud of myself for not being like, oh, I'm ready to stop. But I'm glad I did hold off and you got to come up and speak your perspective, Simon. And thank you, Sophia, also for coming up, giving your perspective too. I think it's imperative to hear us, hear what we are going through, the things we need to say. I definitely, like I said, I might do like a part two to this too, just because I know there's a couple more people that actually wanted to speak on the topic, but the times are getting the times are misaligning. But I'm going to round off and do the call to action and end right here, just so I can cut it clean right here and get myself rested and together for tomorrow's stream also. So once again, guys, what we were talking about today, if you're new to the channel, you just came in the stream, thank you for being here. If you like this content, make sure you hit the bell, hit the button on the way in to show you appreciate it. Today we're talking about how fathers cope with losing a child. It was super, super interesting because the first article we talked about, this was just parents in general, the first article, and it talked about what parents go through, men and women, as far as losing a child. And it talked about how they go through socially, physically, and biologically. Socially, basically, that's you hanging out, being out and about. They don't really want to be around people. Biologically, you get headaches, you get stomach aches, you get sick, you feel sick. Sophia talked a little bit about that, how she felt those things when she was going through that process of losing a child. We also talked about psychologically the mental strains that are going on in people's heads as far as depression and anxiety. So that was the first article we went over. And then the next article was specifically for men, how men cope and grieve with the loss. This article was very intact to me because it specifically spoke to men, father's role in the loss of a child. We asked how men grieve, and I think this is imperative too. It says men are not like women, so they are not going to grieve like us, and we can't expect that their response is like our response because it's just not. It went into detail about how men grieve. It talked about how men grieve silently. You know, they don't really show emotions because they're taught not to share. It says they grieve physically, which means that they throw themselves into work. They get occupied with other things so they don't have to deal with their emotions. And it said whatever form his grief takes, a father must be allowed to process his feelings his own way. So let him process it whatever way he needs to. And then they broke down how to help a grieving father. You be supportive to him. Don't pressure him. If he doesn't want to talk about it, don't push him to talk. Let him talk when he feels. When he does talk, just listen to him. Don't be so quick to throw cliches saying like your baby is an angel in heaven or your child's in a better place, because at that point in time, they might not want to hear that. Help him with daily tasks. This is like a father maybe that's going through things by himself, or even if he has a wife, you know, the wife might have to go to work while he's grieving, or vice versa. So, you know, just help him with daily tasks and then invite him out. You know, they said even if he doesn't want to go, just keep asking him. because it helps with that feeling of abandonment, which I really, really thought this was an excellent article. So once again, guys, this whole topic was about how fathers are grieving, and how we as a whole can help fathers when they're dealing with this. And once again, I appreciate everybody that was here, all the well wishes and the prayers for this sinus drainage to go away. Usually does in like a day or so, but and just can't be sleeping under the fan a lot. Hey, Aisha, I hope you're having a great day today. And guys, we'll do it again tomorrow. You guys know what it is. Freestyle Finesse Friday. Make sure you come with your topics. Like I said, I might, if my guest, I messed up the time with him, gets free later, because I know he just texted me he's on his way home now. I might just do another stream later tonight with him talking, because he specifically wanted to talk about this. If not, we'll just push it into a later date. But other than that, guys, I hope you were well. Well, I might just do one. Thank you, B9. I appreciate that. Great show. If you don't know and you're wondering, Miss B Finesse, why do you sound low? Or why does you don't sound, the audio sounds off. It's not the audio, guys. It's me. I'm really, really pushing through talking, because I don't know if you know what a sinus drainage is, but it's literally like all the mucus from your nose goes down your throat. So it's like, it feels like itchy or tickles when I talk. And I'm straining to do it a lot, to talk a lot. So I'm trying to refrain from talking as much. Thank you, Simon, for coming up. Thank you, Sophia, for coming up. It's always great to talk with you guys. And you guys showing the support is so much appreciated today. And other than that, guys, I really appreciate you guys. And have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later. Adios. Au revoir. See you later.
Bye-bye.